Well, and I think first, thank you so much, Susie, for having me and for Arkansas Leadership and Women Can. It's a big honor to be invited, to an inaugural event, and then to see so many of you here in the audience, listening, engaged. Hopefully we're sharing and learning today. And I was asked kind of to share a little bit about my career, life, lessons learned along the way. And life does have a way of teaching us lessons, doesn't it? Some we need to know, some we'd rather not have learned, and some I hope I never need that knowledge again. And then I've got to say some of them, maybe all of them, molded me into the person I am today. So they help, and they're important as we go and grow. And do want to cover, I'm not a professional speaker, not an expert on life and problem solving, but I hope that as I go through some of my lessons and some of the things I've learned that you can relate, maybe debate, think about it, and consider your own life lessons. And so some of the ones that resonate the most with me, I picked out kind of get us started, is that diversity is a strength. And I think that's appropriate for this group, and I think as I go through, you'll see how a diverse group of people have helped mold and craft my life and who I've become. And I would venture to say that the same is true for you. Next, I think adversity is often an opportunity. And it's kind of how you look at things and a problem. But as I reflect back, so many of the problems I was presented when I think things were really going so bad, that presented a different challenge, and how you looked at it and how it affected your life maybe leads to something positive. And finally, the thing I'll emphasize and that I love about this group is that people matter. Anytime there is something going on, it's always both. It's friends, colleagues, people you can go back to that make a difference. And since these lessons were, I got ahead of myself, kind of, they were woven into my life and helped build me, I thought I would kind of start a little bit with my life story. My parents went to high school in Ashdown, Arkansas, southwest corner of the state. Actually, I went to high school there too, but that's where they met. And a year after graduation, they got married. And that was I always think that's the cutest photo. My mother's had the tiniest waist. I never had that. And you'll also see throughout the day that I like photos and clips and memories, and so I'm going to bombard you with a few of those you'll have to suffer through. But they got married, and without a honeymoon, because they didn't have any money and they didn't have the time, they moved to Oklahoma City. My dad was a store manager for Safeway stores at the time. He had kind of grown up and started sacking groceries at 13, so he kind of moved into that business. And so he was assistant manager, and 16 months later, he also had a daughter. I was the first one to come along, and by 21, he was managing the store. And that's kind of when he hit a snag, obstacle to his career path, and maybe, in hindsight, a big opportunity. Safeway had this policy that to move beyond store manager, you had to be qualified, have served as a store manager, and be 35 years old. My dad's 21. And he was a pretty aggressive, ambitious person, and he said, there's no way I'm sitting around for 14 years to hit some magic age barrier that somebody set for me when I'm qualified. So he packed up my mom, who was pregnant now with the second child, who is my only sister and our CFO. So we did keep it all in the family, and moved back to Ashdown. And as I reflect on this, that was an opportunity for me in lots of ways. Not only did Easy Mart come into being, and that is obviously my career, but it also put me closer to my mother's family and to a lot of people that influenced me in my life. As I think about, and I think most of you probably know Maya Angelou, a fellow Arkansan, who made the comment that it's time for parents to teach young people early on, in diversity there is beauty and there is strength. And I was one day doing a speech for another group on diversity, and I thought this resonated so much because it made me think about And it's not just diversity in gender. I mean, I think it's diversity in age and ethnic background and all the things that influence us in our life. And I was privileged to be influenced by many. My parents had a very strong, loving relationship, very much a true partnership with mutual respect. My dad, picture here, 6'3", about 200 pounds, deep bass voice and commanding presence. When he walked in the room, you noticed him, and he was a dynamic leader who founded our company. But as he said to me on numerous occasions, I won one fight with your mother and it wasn't worth it. And so I also was raised by a pretty strong group of women. And my mother, to this day, that's my niece and her last year. She is a strong, independent thinking influence on my life still today. And she was influenced very strongly by both her mother and her grandmother. My great-grandmother, born 1892 and died in 73. She was, by 24 years of age, she had bore 4 children, was widowed, and had lost 2 of those children. By 45, she had lost her second husband. She put herself through nursing school, and because she wasn't able to have an education, she wasn't an RN, but she was the LPN and was the head nurse of Ashdown Memorial Hospital. I think even the doctors answered to her sometimes. She had, at 56, she had breast cancer. And this was in 1948. So it was a time when the treatments weren't so good. I can remember seeing, they basically scraped and caverned out a lot of the skin, but she survived. She lived into her 80s, and she was tough. I learned from her strength, independence, and that toughness. So now I have her daughter, Lucy Faye Wilson, who was a bright redhead before Lucille Ball even became Lucille Ball, and had a similar personality. You can see it was her here with me in her Easter Bunny costume that she made, and every year she was always the jokester and the one to laugh and the one that brought life to the party. She taught me to give more than you take and to love life and embrace it. She passed away in 2012 at 98 years old, having survived cancer 3 times. So she was pretty tough. That's a picture of her the day before she died, and I always think it's so cool. You can still see the twinkle in her eye. She was happy, smiled, never complained, and always cared about what was going on with you. So I do have to say that connections make a difference. They've helped me in my personal life and in my business life, helped me make better decisions, helped the way I think. I think that, in my mind, diversity is an enormous asset. People with differing opinions, backgrounds, experiences simply make better decisions. Together, we truly are better. And diversity truly is a strength, as Maya Angelou said. The opportunity of Safeway provided my dad, afforded me the opportunity to be raised by a diverse group of people. And it also provided an opportunity for a new business, Easy Mart. My dad had begun to see, he was in the grocery business, and he had begun to see the emergence of kind of 7-Eleven, mini gas and grocery stores. Self-service fuel was really just coming in. Most of you don't remember, you actually used to have to pull up and have your gas pumped. And so he found that intriguing. He was from the grocery business, and he thought that could evolve. So franchised to 7-Eleven, and he and my mother ran it. They worked 12 to 18-hour shifts, switching out, and that was when me and my sister were young. So probably think I've got a picture about that age, and I would walk from grade school. It's only a couple of blocks away, and I did live in Ashdown, so that was pretty safe. And my mother would be there with my little sister, and I would read comic books to her, and we'd drink ices, and hey, we thought it was the coolest business around. And so it was fun. So, and my dad, he liked the business, and he saw a lot of potential. And then he decided to branch out and carry that further. And that's how Easy Mart was born. I remember the night we had sitting here with the marketing team. Our marketing team was that my dad took crayons and used and colored different patches and came up with the green and orange logos that we still use today. And that's how we evolved into that. Our name, Easy Mart, came from the Indian Nation Turnpike. There were the easy off, easy on ramps off and onto the turnpike. And he said, that so symbolizes convenience. I mean, there's not a better name. So that's actually how our not so sophisticated marketing established in the 1970s. And our first store was in Nashville, Arkansas, as Susie said earlier, and it grew from there. We built stores and acquired groups, and today we operate over 300 stores and have $1 billion in revenue. So something for a little Arkansas company, not too bad, something we're proud of. Another thing we're proud of, and it sounds silly, except for I am talking to a group of women, is last year we won Convenience Store News publishes a Cleanest Restrooms Award, and we won it. And nationwide, so I was impressed and proud. We also won for the cleanest coffee bar and fountain area, and a lot of that comes from if you're outside of Little Rock. We're really building and remodeling and upgrading a lot of stores, and I think that's where, and so we got some recognition. So I was proud of that, and I figured this group would appreciate that. And this is our logo. The first one was the one my dad designed, and truly with crayons and a little pencil, and then and that's the one actually where we operate today. And so we are, as I said, still a family business. My sister's a CFO, my mother's the chairman of the board, and my husband's my COO. And but one of the things as we tried to brand ourselves, we wanted to focus on the family. And so in our coffee is Fail and Coffee, which is my mother's name. It's artfully brewed and Faye approved. And, sorry, I got behind on my graphics. And so, well, here's some old stores. I guess, yes, I was doing this in the evolution. As I said, you can see they have moved and changed. This is one of our new stores. Actually, that's in Locksburg, Arkansas. And they're in Texarkana, Arkansas. We just did one that's also a liquor store combo. So obviously a lot of our growth and improvement's been in Arkansas, which I'm proud of. And then I talked about the Fail and Coffee. And as I said, mother and chairman. So we've tried to brand the two chicks, my sister and I. And, she's the one, for those of you who've ever met her, she's got screaming red hair just like her daughter does. And so I've always been jealous of it. She's the orange chick, and I guess I'm the plain old regular one. So, and then in our fountain drinks, we really wrestled with how to come up with a kind of a diverse group to represent and market the areas. And then we decided, to heck with it. And we used the kids. And so we use this, my nephew, niece, and my daughter. Although the nephew and niece don't like this at all right now because she's 19, he's 15. They don't look anything like that. And so, yeah, they really get beat up at school. So not happy with that. But as I reflect on the evolution and kind of the irony of Safeway's policy that made my dad change his whole career path, I think about how the business grew. But it took more than that. My dad was very driven. He had faith and fortitude, and he wasn't afraid of hard work, and he was willing to do that. And that's how Easy Mart came about. And it's probably one of the reasons I think admiring what he accomplished is why I love this quote that Thomas Edison once said, that opportunity is missed by most people because it comes dressed in overalls and looks a lot like work. And I think that's true. I think sometimes we all think it ought to be easy. It's not easy. It does take a lot of hard work. I learned early on that he expected the same from me. I think like many of you, probably babysit. I worked in the pool snack bar at 14, and at 16, when school let out, he told me I had a job waiting, and from then on, that's how I spent my summers and breaks. But that was okay, and I learned a lot from that. I also learned that even with a lot of hard work, you can't control everything. and adversity does come in, and you do have problems, and you've just got to learn how to deal with them. Since the 1970, when the business was founded, we've gone through lots of changes, lots of good and bad times. And my first big one as a leader was really kind of a twofer. I was CFO, and we had 2 large acquisitions pending for 125 locations, which the biggest group I think we'd ever bought was 35 or 40. So it was a significant deal. And my dad, 57 at the time, died tragically in a plane crash. He had some health problems and wasn't able to recover from them. So I'd been in his office an hour before. We had just finished the year end. I had the financials. They were the best, most profitable year we'd ever had at the time. And I presented him with those. We talked about the acquisitions. I had been working on the finance packages and got approval on what are the next steps. He wanted to increase the size of the office. He said, we need to remodel. And honestly, he had been looking at selling the business. And so we talked about that. And he said, you know, the more I think about it, he said, you've got that burn. I don't really have it as much anymore. I want to step back a little bit. And if you guys want to do this, I'm comfortable that y'all can run the business. And I've reflected back so many times on that conversation, you know, just right before his death, that we covered so much of this. And that gave me the strength to kind of move forward, you know, because, I mean, we had to deal with, we didn't just lose a father. We also lost our CEO of our company. But we still had a multi-million-dollar company to run. We couldn't just quit. And we had these 2 acquisitions pending. So actually, I'll show you, this was one of the last pictures I have. He had just finished a NASCAR run the weekend before. And I remember him walking over from his desk and getting this, and he said, this was so much fun, chance of a lifetime. And so I will always remember, and that photo holds a lot of special memories. And so, but as I said, we were committed to 2 acquisitions. We had to move forward. And they were the biggest at that time we had ever done. And I guess moving forward, I really lived, one of my dad's sayings was, make your word your bond. If you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. And he didn't care if he had a contract or not. If you said you were going to do something, you did it. And reflecting on that, I never considered trying to get out of the acquisitions. He was doing those because he was looking at selling the company, and it was moving us forward in a different direction. I knew they didn't really fit where we were or where we were going, but I never considered trying to undo those, because you do what you say you're going to do. As I look back, there was both. We did the right thing, but we also did the tough thing. It led into some of the most difficult financial times that our company went through. It showed my team, I think, and our vendors and our bankers and creditors that we were committed to the business, but it also showed up some weaknesses because it happened at a time that the C-store industry was changing. Mass merchandisers were coming in and selling fuel, very low cost. And all of a sudden, in 1 year, our gross profits dropped 20%. Even no matter how nimble you are, that's hard to catch up to and hard to deal with. We'd also just acquired 125 stores. We had a very heavy debt burden, and profits took a decline. And I'll tell you, you always hear cash is king. It is. And you learn to quit looking at bottom line, and you really, really, really worry about what's in the bank. And so the hardest part for me as a leader that I share is having been daddy's girl and worrying so much about decisions he would make and how he would have looked at things, was reaching a point that I knew I had to make decisions he probably wouldn't make, because he wasn't a quitter. He wouldn't give up on a store. And if he had invested in it, it was just we weren't working hard enough if it didn't work. The reality is sometimes traffic patterns change. You get new competition. The road may move totally around you. And so we had to finally admit to ourselves that stores have a life cycle. And I had to admit that cash is king, and we had to make decisions for the good of the company, not individual stores. And we went in a period of about 3 years from 525 stores down to the 300 or so that we operate today. We kind of hovered at that same place. We've add 10 and close 10. But y'all seen them. I mean, stores change, they evolve, they progress, and you have to move forward. And so, but confronted with those times, made different decisions. We knuckled down, focused on our core operations. Now, last year, I'm proud to say, we built 6 new stores from the ground up. We major remodeled to 30 stores. We did the same thing the year before and the year before that, and this year I'm working on a refinance package and plan to double that. So, and most of those are here in Arkansas. So proud that we are still growing. It's in the 4 state areas: Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana is where we operate. I think the time of this, what I call the decline in our size, I called it right sizing because that sounded better. And I had a hard time convincing some of my team that it wasn't the end, but a new beginning, especially when I closed store number 1 in Nashville, Arkansas. And it's hard to let go of the flagship store. But we needed to do it, and we had to move on. But since then, cash flows hit all-time, is improved dramatically. Profits have hit an all-time high. And I try to live by this motto that I hung in our boardroom: fail faster to succeed sooner. Because the reality is we all fail. You're going to make mistakes. The secret is to learn from them and move on. I truly believe that opportunity is a key to success. But you've got to grab it and you've got to see it. You've got to affect the way you look at it. Don't, instead of being negative, look for the silver lining in a problem. How do we turn lemons into lemonade? And learn from these failures. And one of the things, as I said, and I'll repeat, is you've got to rely on other people. I truly do rely on my diverse team of people for advice and input. As I said, I've got my CFO is my sister and my COO are my husband, so I get grounded a lot, and so because they don't mind sharing when they disagree with me. But it's the connections, your friends, colleagues, political, charitable organization, some of even your hobbies and connections that you can do. Industry, competitors have been great to work with me and help. I was the chairman for the National Association of Convenience Stores, which operates and represents the 150,000 convenience stores nationwide. I was that in 2009. I was the first legacy chair because my father had served in that role previously, and I was the first woman. So I was very proud in a kind of old boy kind of business to do that for the women. And then 2 years later, I was inducted into the Convenience Store News Hall of Fame. Again, the first woman. And, well, thank you for that. And so, but I don't tell you that to brag. I tell you that to say that I didn't do it alone, that it took so many people that supported me on the way up, that encouraged and inspired, and as I moved forward. And as a friend told me one day that I thought this really resonated with me, and he said, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you can be sure he didn't get there by himself. And so I always think of that. And so you do need people. We all need people to help support us and guide us and push us. And I encourage you to have a diverse group of people that influence you and your world, that inspire and encourage leadership. And I also encourage you to do that for others, because we can be there for each other. I will close with reminding you that I do believe diversity is a strength, and that adversity is truly often an opportunity if we just look for it and turn it into it, and that people truly, truly matter. And then something that, just because I try to live by this motto, is that I would close say to accept your past without regret, handle your present with confidence, and face your future without fear. And I think if we all live by that, it'd be a better world. And we could accomplish a lot more. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. So I challenge you with that today. And again, thank you for having me here. This is an impressive group and a meaningful opportunity for women. And I think I'm not an expert on anything, but I have an opinion on everything. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain those.
Thank you, Sonia. My name's Becky Thompson, and by the way, I'm from Nashville, Arkansas.
Good, thank you.
Well, remember that first store.
Sorry.
So.
Thank
But
you.
my question to you is that once you took over your company after your father, his accident, what were some of the unexpected obstacles that you encountered?
I would say I probably had an advantage over most probably women who would have been in that position, because by being a family business, I had worked with so many of my colleagues. And I will say I have spoke to my dad on a couple of occasions and apologized for he was tough. and sometimes he was tough on me in front of people. And it kind of hurt, but what it did was they knew I could handle it. And so he allowed me the opportunity to prove that I could do the job. And I think you have to do that. I think as women, we've got to stand up for ourselves. Within being a CPA and having the credentials helped. And so I think sometimes when we don't have that stand behind, again, we have to be more assertive. I still today we'll have our trade show at our association. I'll walk into the booth with my husband, and they walk up to him and shake his hand and want his card. And so, that's when I usually whip mine out and walk up and shake their hand. And I think, we've still got to break down the barriers, and I don't think even some of them are intentional or to put us down. It's just still ingrained in how people think. And so we've got to buck that trend. So, anything else? Nope, quiet group. Yes, ma'am. Okay. How are you?
First, I want to commend you for just being here today. I really appreciate hearing from
thank you.
And then I wanted to ask, you always hear people say that diversity is strength.
Yes.
Can you outline why you think it is?
What I've seen, and it's funny what I've learned, and I don't know if it's a generational thing or if it's a woman thing, but I run meetings very different than my dad did. It was very hierarchical. And what I've learned, and I'm surprised, some of the meetings when we have a diverse group of people my management team of all different ages, race, gender, but the input we get, even if it's an operational problem, sometimes the lady who's over our technology department will say something, maybe more as a customer, her view is different. And she'll have the input and she'll say something, or one of the guys that say, but if we do that, it'll impact this and we can't do. And so we come to better decisions. I just truly, truly believe that when we have input from a diverse group, that we just reach better decisions. We've been more rounded. And so less mistakes. Fell faster, right? Yes, ma'am.
When we saw your chart on when you right-sized,
thank you.
My colleague noted that was very good timing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was that deliberate? Did you know something was coming, or were you just reacting to your own business, or were you looking ahead?
Both. Initially, it was reaction. Truly, we got kicked in the teeth by the declining sales and the new marketers within the industry, and all of a sudden, cash flow gets tight, and you start looking at things. As we progressed, what we saw, and I'm privileged enough to serve on the Federal Reserve Board out of St. Louis. I was on Little Rock's branch for a long time, and we did, listening to some of the economic reports and seeing and the input that we're going to see a downturn in 2000. This is like 2006. We're going to see a downturn in 2008 that goes to 2012. They missed it by a little bit. But, that will be worse since the Great Depression. And they were right. And so we refinanced a lot of our loans. We looked at the stores that simply didn't have the volume to get there. I mean, it truly is the other interesting. I need to overlay our sales volumes on top of that because our sales are now higher than they were when we had 525 stores. So there becomes a point, that it just made more sense to consolidate to higher volume, more profitable stores. And so it was a combination. Initially, I had to get kicked in the face. But after that, I wised up. So. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Hi, that was a very inspirational speech.
No.
I have a question about when you were growing up, did you always know you would want to take over your family's business, or did you ever have a point in your life when you thought you might want to do something different career-wise?
Yeah. I'll admit, I really wanted to be a rockhead. I really, really, really did. But they're 5'7.5" minimum, and I'm not even close, even with these heels on. So, but no, even up through probably early high school, I still thought that's what I wanted to do. But once I started working in the company, and I think having seen my dad evolve, I mean, when I was a little kid, we were turning around, I could read gas prices. He'd say, "What's that price on?" And so we would do the competitor price checks. And so I turned around the back seat. Yeah, we didn't wear seatbelts back then either. And so I think I knew. I kind of grew into it and knew all through, I guess, the end of high school, I started majoring. He encouraged me to get an accounting degree and to get my CPA book so that there always was something to fall back on. He was kind of a backdoor insurance person. And so, but I think, and that's, I don't know, it's all I know. I've thought about since then, what would, because I love business. I think right now, if I had to choose anything else, I think it'd be the fashion industry, because then you do both. You get business and clothes and shoes. But no, family business is where I belong, I guess. So. Yes, ma'am. There come. Getting your exercise.
Oftentimes when we talk about diversity, people assume diversity means that you are hiring people at the expense of competence.
Right.
It's just a common thing, I think, to put it down. Mm-hmm. So, and I think if you are not absolutely deliberate as opposed to hoping diversity happens, it won't happen.
Yeah.
So the specific question is, are you deliberate about having a diverse staff? And if so, have you run up against any issues with that, with people just assuming it's just some kind of affirmative action thing at the expense of competence? Because for women and people of color, that's something that we live with. People will look at you and assume you are an affirmative hire. And for my case, so what if I am? I'm competent. So would you please speak to that?
Yeah, you raise some really good points. Sometimes you wonder, you think, oh, quotas are bad or this or that. But truly, if you don't have a focus on doing things different, it doesn't happen. And trying to pick out those skills. We are small enough as an organization that we don't have specifically defined rules and limits, but I think as you look at our management team and then throughout the entire organization, you would see, and we encourage, and I've always said, I would love a person, I guess, who would fall into maybe one of the protected classes as a descriptor, somebody who is competent, if they're comparable to someone else, maybe a 45-year-old white male, this person probably works harder and they probably have struggled a little more. And I want that ambition and I want that drive on the team. And so no, we specifically, and I've overridden some hiring decisions just specifically to get that. And I think it's important, as you point out, if I don't like favoring one person or the other. Everybody deserves a level playing field. But at the same time, we have to focus that way and we have to support each other. So thank you. Anybody else? We good? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sonia. I am a visitor from Detroit, so I was one of the speakers here this morning, and it's a thrill to hear you speak.
Oh,
truly, and I love your
Thank
stories about your dad. But I want to ask you about something that many of the women asked questions about this morning and have pulled me aside to talk to me about, and it's about the messages that young girls are getting today. And to me, it seems as if, and I hear them say this, that the highly sexualized messages that young girls are just soaked in today about the importance of being hot. I just wonder what you've noticed, what your advice is to your daughter, and what are you saying to young girls?
Well, and this gets, I guess, into that opinion of mine, but I do have a 27-year-old daughter, and more so that it's my 19-year-old niece. Both gorgeous, and I'm proud of that. But you know what? I want to be gorgeous here and here first, and it, as much as we've accomplished, and as much as I obviously vainly try to present a certain look, I do worry that the kids, the pictures they post, that it's all about looking hot or cute or glamorous, and it's not about what they stand for. I hope it's the age, and I hope we can transition, but I think that's where we have to help them. I think the band bossy and those things, and the lean in and some of that because we finally, I think, got where we broke through that ceiling a little bit, and so, but now it's a little easy. I think this generation doesn't know what some of you and I went through, and it's been too easy, and so they've got to stand up for themselves as people, rely on the way they think and their intelligence instead of just being cute and hot. And I've tried to tell my niece that, and I don't know the solution, but I think we have to talk about it, challenge them.
Okay, I get the last question.
Okay. That was just the hard one.
We had sessions this morning on business ownership, building your personal brand, mentors, and sponsorships. So as you've built the EasyMart company and been in your position for 15 years, as you've built the company's brand, have you built your personal brand? And through that 15 years of progress, who were your mentors and or sponsors to get you where you are today?
Of course, whether it's just where I was and not just, it's kind of my industry and the family. My mentors tended, of course, first my father. Would say that my mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother that y'all saw, just because they were strong women. I mean, my dad it was never even questioned that I was female, if that mattered, and so I never really focused on that. Within the industry, there were a lot of men that when I pushed me, they wanted me to be the first chairman. They wanted me to serve on the board. I will admit, when the gentleman who asked me to serve on our association's board, here's how he asked me: Sonia, we're really hoping that you would take a position on the NACS board. We need a woman. And I said, if that's the only reason you want me, the answer's no. And he turned 14 shades of red, and he was and I didn't do it to hurt his feelings, but I wanted to, if that's why. And but I think so many of the people in my life influenced me. I didn't have a lot of people within the business, especially after the loss of my dad. But then the culture, it has evolved. And I read something the other day that said you live it. You can't just have it written down and it be a policy. And I think that's true. It's funny, my assistant this morning, she hadn't heard my speech or heard any of this, and she flipped through the pictures, was all she saw was the graphics, and she said, this says you. That says EasyMart is your family, and your family is EasyMart. And she said, and so as you asked that, it makes me think of that. And so I think it's that I truly, passionately believe, I mean, these people are willing to commit so much time and effort to make our business successful, and I commit the same back to them, and I think you live that, and that's the only way it works. So, is that it? Okay. Well, thank y'all so much.